Hello, this is the WeThePeopleMeet.org meeting on July 22nd, 2025, and we are interviewing Highland City candidates for City Council this election period. And we're starting with Kristen Ritchie. She is the first one slotted for the meeting. So we wanted to welcome you to the meeting today, Kristen.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to start with just a basic start out question is maybe introduce yourself and tell us why you were interested in running.
Okay. Well, my name's Kristen Ritchie. I've been a resident of Highland for just 4 years. Prior to moving to Highland, my husband and I and family lived in Southern California for 32 years. And we watched our beautiful town decline because of liberal policies that were introduced over the years. It was sad to see. We watched our beloved bike trail to the beach become a homeless encampment, never to be taken back. We watched our education system decline with both inappropriate actions by teachers, um, unresponsiveness by the administration, and the curriculum changing to not reflect any traditional values whatsoever. It was disturbing to watch. And then we had an immigration policy of letting everyone in unvetted, and it ended up in an Islamic terror attack in our city that took the lives of 14 people. And it was something very pronounced to watch over the course of the years that we lived there. We were very blessed to be able to serve as mission leaders in Lima, Peru from 2018 to 2021. And when we returned, I told my husband, I think the battle is lost here. I want to move up closer to family, closer to my mom, and somewhere where people still value faith, family, and freedom like I do and can be a part of the solution. So we moved to Highland 4 years ago. We love this town. Um, and I've been involved in many things on the state level. Um, I've been a delegate, a county delegate, and I have loved getting to know the caucus system here in Utah, which is fantastic. I've been involved up at the Capitol with Eagle Forum, on the board of Eagle Forum, promoting and defending all kinds of conservative issues at the state legislature. I haven't worked a lot at the local level, but I thought it would be rewarding and fun to get involved more on a civic level and see if maybe um, some conservative representation in the city could be helpful to defending some of those things I hold dear.
Hmm. That's sad to hear about your hometown, and I'm sure that was hard to watch. And but yeah, I love your involvement in our local community. So appreciate that. The next issue, the question I have is, what issues in Highland are important to you?
Well, since I decided to run for city council, I've been attending the city council and planning commission meetings, and I'm learning a lot every week. I'm not pretending to know everything about city government, but I've learned that there's a lot involved. And some of the issues that I think are very important to Highland right now definitely have to do with water. There are some concerns about how we manage our water and also whether our water will be controlled by entities beyond our city. That's a concern. Housing, high density housing is always a concern as it changes the fabric of a community when we are encouraged or promoted in some way to construct high density housing where there was none before. And I think preserving our spacious feel in Highland, our large lots, and that rural feel that we have, the open spaces, it becomes very important to how we maintain those and how we preserve them for uh, future generations. Also, I've come to realize that there are a lot of people in Highland who are concerned about uh, how do I say, fees and taxes, and that we don't want to get in too much debt in our city. I know that Highland has had a bond, a couple of bonds that are just about ready to be paid off. And in reviewing the survey of residents from several months ago, I would say 80% of the comments were to stop raising our taxes and fees
Wow.
for things. People have a real concern about that. So I'm a fiscal conservative. I know there's a time to replace things and to pay for things, but I believe in being, very, very careful about being a steward over the taxpayer dollars of our community.
Sounds great. And I want to honor your time. What time would you like a hard cut off of our conversation, just to make
Oh,
sure
how
time?
about noon? Is that all right?
Yeah, that gives us 5 minutes for 5 questions, so they'll have to be
Okay,
really quick answers, which is
all
great.
right.
Really
I'll
plenty
do
of
quick
time.
ones. Yep.
1 minute per answer.
Okay.
What was your stance on the move to legalize alcohol in Hawaii?
Okay, I was opposed to that.
Hmm.
I worked on with Liz Rice and her awesome campaign to stop that change in our city.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have a daughter who was nearly killed by a drunk driver crossing in a crosswalk. I have strong feelings about it. I loved the fact that Highland respected that and did not have alcohol in the city and was disappointed that for the sake of development, they were kind of willing to, stand down from that. And I definitely was disappointed about that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for that. High density housing, we could probably skip through that one because I think you already said your opinion on that, unless you want to add
Okay.
anything else on that.
Um, no, I think we'll let it stand there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Um, how do you define the proper role of government for cities? The U.S. Constitution is pretty clear about the federal government's responsibilities, but the rest they leave to the people or the states. What that isn't defined by the U.S. Constitution. How do you define the boundaries of what a city can do or can't do?
Yeah. Well, that's great. I love traditional values. I believe in limited government, individual freedoms, and constitutional principles for sure. My big concern right now is Governor Cox has issued an executive order called Build. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you're familiar with it, you might be,
Mhm.
but it came out May 30th and it puts an appointed group like a commission, an appointed commission in charge of development and zoning throughout the entire state to, control our growth.
So does
This
that
was,
overturn cities? It
yes,
has more authority
mhm,
than the cities on their
yes.
zoning inside their cities. Okay,
Mhm.
wow.
It's very concerning. I first encountered it up at the state legislature, and so many groups stood against it in committee. They were just getting so much pushback. It was called something different there. Um, anyway, I can't remember right now what that was called, but they got pushback from that. It did not make it out of committee, was defeated in committee, and we heard it was going to come back with a vengeance. Well, it came back as an executive order by Governor Cox, Build. And it's an acronym for something that I can't put my hand on right now, but it is an appointed council of experts to choose how we develop the communities it overrides the rights of individual communities. I'm very concerned about that.
No, that's good to know. Thanks for telling me about that. Do you feel that the bond fee should continue after the bond ends in 2 years, or should taxes be reduced instead?
Well, like I said, in reviewing that survey, I found 80% of the comments were people worried about the city continuing on collecting that fee when the bonds are paid off. I think a lot of people are very concerned about finances going forward. I think they feel pinched and inflation continues to go up. Everything costs more money. Every service, police, fire, our maintaining our city costs more basically every year to do the same amount of work. And so I would not be in favor of keeping that fee to cover the bonds on. I think when we're done paying for that, I believe that the city should meet its obligations without excessive debt. And I think we can do that by carefully prioritizing what we spend.
Good. Okay, this is a quick one, and it's the last one.
Okay.
What current day politician do you feel that you relate to the most or align politically with the most?
With a current day politician,
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of President Trump. I
Mhm.
have followed his policies. He's not a perfect individual. None
Mhm.
of us are, but I have followed his policies and the things that he has done to stand up for traditional values and for constitutional principles in government. And I admire him and appreciate all he's done to try to make our country great.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to add? It's 12 o'clock. Is there anything you want to add before you?
Well, I appreciate the chance to get the word out. I'm a newbie.
Mhm.
And I recognize that I haven't lived here forever and I don't have years of experience on a council. In my hometown before we moved here, I was fairly involved with the city council on multiple issues that came up in our town. And if given the opportunity to serve, I would do my very best to listen to the residents, to research issues, and to try to protect Highland and keep it the wonderful family-friendly place it's been.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I know what a sacrifice it is to run. I've been there before, so I appreciate you
Oh,
doing that and sacrificing for the community. So thank you very much. Good
thank
talking
you
to you.
very much, Rob.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
Very good.
All right, now we've got our second candidate today. Her name is Elizabeth Rice, but you go by Liz, right?
I go by Liz. Yes, please.
Okay. So, yeah, welcome to the meeting. We're glad to have you and to chat with you about some issues facing Highland and happy to get going here.
Well, that's really
Um,
nice of you to do this too. I appreciate it.
yeah, not a problem at all. I enjoy it. Um, we're going to start with so we've got 7 questions and we're running a little late, so we may have to have quicker answers than normally
Okay.
you'd give, but
All right.
tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to run.
Sure. So, I am a retired school teacher of 33 years up in the public school system,
Uh-huh.
and I taught U.S. history, speech, communications, Constitution, and theater arts. And I have 4 sons. I have several grandchildren, and I love them all. I have one son that is a police officer. I wanted to run. I actually ran as a write-in candidate a couple of years ago and lost by 300 votes. And I felt that I had enough momentum going forward that maybe I should give it another go. And I want to run because I believe Highland needs a little bit more conservative voice. I think we're spending a little bit too much money, and I don't have, I'm not a developer. I'm not a realtor. Not that they're not great people, they are, but I feel like I'm very objective and I feel like the people of Highland need me.
Wonderful. Well, that is pretty impressive to get within 300 votes as a write-in because usually write-ins end up with 1 or 2% of the vote. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty impressive.
And the county said that they went back 10 years and they couldn't find anybody that had come that close for 10 years. They didn't go back farther than that, but that was, you know, I worked really hard. So,
Wonderful. Okay, the second question is, what issues in Highland are important to you?
well, I actually have several. If you go to my website, which is Liz Rice, votelizrice.com, but I am really concerned about our infrastructure and our water.
Mhm.
Our water, right now, the city is fitting all of our wells to take on chlorination. When the state says to chlorinate, we're going to have to chlorinate. And some of that is, Highland was designed to be an R140, which means we were supposed to be larger lots or 1 acre lots. And we've kind of, I wouldn't go as far as saying overbuilt, but we're darn close. And so, that puts the water problems on the stress on the infrastructure, stress on the water. And so those are going to be two of my main things. Our bond, the other thing is our bond is paid off in 2027, and I really do not want to bond again. I have learned a lot about bonds, but and this bond was to pay for our city building and our police building. But if we need a bond, maybe it should go for infrastructure. So for the water issues and some of those things that we are currently experiencing. I don't think it should go for a rec center.
Mhm.
We don't need a rec center, in my opinion. They only rec centers make only about 80%, and the 20% always, if not more, and I'm quoting the American Fork Rec Center, they only made about 80%, and the rest goes to the burden of the taxpayers.
Mhm.
So those are my two big things. I mean, there's certainly some other things. Um, Traffic control is another one. We kind of ended up being the crossroads from Cedar Hills to Costco, and
Mhm.
they're zipping through here like bats out of a really hot place. And so we need to slow that down a lot. So this is a residential area. So does that
Okay.
answer your questions well
It
enough?
does. It
Okay.
does. And you've
Okay.
hit on a lot of my other questions. So,
Okay.
what was your stance on the move to legalize alcohol and why?
Well, so I led the referendum against the alcohol. And I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm going to go back a little bit. The Utah State Supreme Court just ruled that the referendum and initiative laws are unconstitutional. It is too difficult. They've made it too difficult for the people to have a say after a law has been passed, and so those were thrown out. I did. I If we're going to have liquor, then I expect money to be made off of the liquor to help our tax base. To date, we have made zero money. There's only one liquor license that has been granted. And that's, I don't know how familiar Owen or Kent is with Highland, but that it's where the Blue Lemon used to be, Little India. They have great food. They do serve liquor, but it's not a very conspicuous open place. But we have not made any money off of liquor. And so it's kind of fizzled, even though I failed. And I think people have the right to choose whether they want liquor or not. But if we're not making money off of it, then I think that we really need to reconsider that. So we have Whole Foods that is going in. If you know SR 92 well enough, they are going in Lehigh on that side where Central Bank is, kind of.
Mhm.
I don't know what else other marker to use. It's not where Central Bank is. But
Just
Lehigh
southwest.
City, yeah, Lehigh City gave Whole Foods an $8 million incentive. They don't have to pay taxes for 8 years. But with that, Whole Foods has said that they're going to bring in fancy dining and whatnot. And so I'm really worried about Highland Mains being successful. I
Mhm.
want them to be successful. The people chose to have liquor through a survey, it wasn't through a vote, which I dislike. I think that if the taxpayers, the registered voters choose, then that's our choice. But that's not how that happened.
Mhm.
So I think I probably said enough on that. But if you
Yeah.
have any other questions or a comment, I'd be glad
Yeah,
to
we're
take
running out of
that.
time already, but
Okay.
two quick questions. Is how do you define the proper role of government for cities? You know, the federal government is pretty well laid out by the Constitution. It's not as clear for cities, but how do you define your limitations as a
You
city
know,
council member?
one of the questions that you'll find on the website, the state has become very involved in local land use matters with the goal of providing more affordable housing. The state of Utah, and I know your question is more federal, but I think the state is interfering a little too much with the city government.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see them let us govern us, and not be quite so overly involved with what we're doing. The people of Highland are smart people. They know and they want to do the right thing, I'm sure. And I just think that we can govern ourselves. We are pretty efficient at that. So
Sounds good. And then what current day politician do you feel that you relate to the most or line politically with
you
most?
mean, so are you talking city, state, federal, what,
Any,
any
whatever.
of or all of the above?
Yeah, one if you choose one person that you say, man, I align with that person often. Mhm.
Well, on the city level, I would say Scott Smith for the most part. It's not that we don't disagree, but we, managed to hash it out. I
Mhm.
have not missed, well, I take that back. I've missed about 2 or 3 times in the last 4 years, city council and planning commission meetings. And he does listen to me very well. Maybe um, I, I I think some of the others do, but he always wants to know my opinion. So I don't know on the state level as well. Um,
Mhm.
I know that our local legislators, if you send them a letter, they respond. But I am endorsed by the Utah County Republican Party, if that helps. And I do support law enforcement. I do support President Trump as well.
Great. That's great. And then Owen or Kent, do you guys have any questions you want to ask her before she finishes here? Nope.
Not
Great.
for me, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other things you want to talk about before we move on to the
No, I'm just
next?
hoping that they'll vote for me. Please
Mhm.
vote for me. I need your vote. I need it in the primary, and I need it in the election if I make it through the primary. So, but thank you for hosting this. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the leap of faith to run. That's a scary thing and
It
sometimes
is
difficult.
scary.
So I appreciate
It's,
you having the courage to do that, and I appreciate your involvement in the past with the liquor issue. So appreciate all that you've done for the city. Okay.
Thank you so much. I will
Yeah.
talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a
Talk
good
Thank
to you
one,
you.
you
soon.
guys.
Bye
Yeah.
bye
Bye.
now.
Bye bye.
Wes, you are on if you can hear me. It might take a second for him to get added to the meeting.
Um, can you
There
hear
you
Dan?
go. And let's
I
see.
see Liz.
Yep, she just finished up and she's on her way out of the meeting and there we go. Okay. Well, good to meet you, Wes.
You
I,
too.
we got a couple others on. We got Kent Bowman. He's from the Salt Lake area. He's a pretty influential businessman from out there. We've got Owen Crawley's got the same last name as me because he's my uncle. So they're just listening in for the most part, but they can jump in if they want to also. But I'm excited to get to know you since I've never met you before. And so maybe you could start out by just introducing yourself generally and maybe telling us a little bit about why you want to run for city council.
Love it. Yeah. So I'm Wes Warren. I've lived in Highland for about 14 years.
Uh,
Um, uh, Wife, 3 boys, ages 10, 14, and 17. My wife and I own an ad agency, and it's a pretty small shop. We've done that together for about 15 years, and it's kind of a dream working with your best friend every day. So it's kind of
yeah,
nice. Um,
that's what I do too. It's kind of fun.
I know, right?
Working from home
It's
with my wife. So yeah, that's great.
the biggest hurdle was learning to take off the coworker hat and put on the spouse hat, but it's worked out. Um, I've been, yeah, I initially got involved in the city about 10 years ago. It was about the time the city started to plan out the Mountain Ridge Park, or the Highland Family Park, and kind of got involved as a citizen, creating kind of a couple of ad hoc networks, putting an input, what we wanted to see, what we didn't want to see, and it was kind of intoxicating being able to see government work, going to a city council meeting, standing up and saying something, seeing the council listen to you, consider what you have to say, and then actually do something about it. Listen to what you have to say. And it was great. It was a moment where I was somewhat disillusioned with just being involved nationally, state level. It was tough. It was a tough time. So seeing it work and it was great. It was heartening. So at that point, a little bit after that, Mayor Mann put me as a co-chair with Brian Braithwaite on the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. And Brian and I still kind of pick away at that. And he's been an amazing influence and kind of mentor for me. A couple years later, I was put on the library board, and so I still serve on the library board. And then a couple years ago, I was put on the planning commission and still do that and enjoy it. Preparing for a meeting tonight, actually. So
That's great. I love the involvement. Thank you for serving all this time. And it is, I don't think most people realize that our government was made for the people, and that means that people have a lot of say and a lot of power when they choose to exercise that power. And it looks like you were excited about finding that out, at least locally here. So
yeah, very much
that's
so.
cool. That is great. All right, well, I'll get into some other questions. What issues in Highland are important to you that make you want to run for office? What are the issues that are important?
Good question. I I'm kind of running on three areas of focus, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, one of them being safe streets and sidewalks for Highland. We have a kind of a patchwork of sidewalks
Mhm.
in the city, and that goes back 4 or 5 decades when developers were in the city and weren't held to that responsibility to actually put in sidewalks. Add to that um, residents getting a little more property for their money where there wasn't a sidewalk or even a shoulder on the road. And so if you go down streets like 5600 West or 10400 North, 9600 North, even along Highland Elementary School and Freedom Elementary, um, you see large sections, both sides of the road without sidewalks, sometimes even without shoulders.
Yep.
And I've looked into how we can get that fixed as a city, whether it's diverting funds, budgeting, or available grants. Um, Part of that for me is also clearly demarcated and safe bike lanes throughout the city. My main mode of transportation is a bike, and so I bike almost everywhere. Um, and it's nice to feel safe, but more than that, and there are plenty of cyclists. It serves a real need. But more than that, there are some roads like Canal Boulevard and 9600 that have a speeding problem and a traffic problem. And when you address things like sidewalks, shoulders, bike lanes, and even beautifying those roadsides and the medians, you are road dieting for all intents and purposes, which is, a way of making driving down roads seem more narrow. And when that happens, your perception becomes reality. You drive slower, you drive safer. And so I feel like that it addresses so many problems, or at least concerns
Mhm.
that the city's facing right now. That's probably my main one. The other one is seriously looking into a community center that serves the library, that serves the Highland Historical Society, that serves the Highland Arts Council, senior programs, the city youth council. Um, and sometimes when I say this, people think rec center, and it's very different. It's a community center. We have a spot for it just east of the splash pad.
Mhm.
City owns, and they've been trying to figure out what to do with it. There are a lot of ways to pay for that as residents, and I look forward to looking into number one, if it's something that residents have an appetite for, because I think that more than anything drives my decision making. But the number two, the most responsible way to go about it if it is something that we need and want.
Sounds good. What was your stance on the move to legalize alcohol and why?
I was very much for it,
Mhm.
and for a couple of reasons. Um, I recognized an economic opportunity and need
Uh,
in the city. And I know there was a little bit of debate on whether or not this would address or affect that. Um, and I've seen since then, a couple of people, even on the city council, that have kind of realized how important it is to shore up the economic centers and support those both in the town center and in the new Highland Mains area.
mhm.
Um, the other has to do with just um, basic freedoms. I don't know if I need to go into that a lot, and I know there's two sides to that, but I wanted to see businesses be able to make certain decisions for themselves. I think another reason I looked really, really, really hard at the public safety data of the Utah Department of Public Safety. Really hard as far as um, number of alcohol-related accidents in the county, in Salt Lake County, in our city, in surrounding cities, um, and came to a pretty definitive conclusion that it would not make the city less safe, that it might be making the city uh, less safe by keeping it dry. And there's evidence of that across the country. Um, and I more than anything, because I like to do my own research and kind of inform my own opinion.
Right.
But I loved what the mayor did with the support of the council of slowing the process down. Like, let's get resident input.
Right.
Um, and at first I was like, you're the city council, like this is what you're elected to do. And so I ate a little bit of crow later on. I feel like that was a really good decision on the part of the mayor and the council. Um, they went out. I helped hold a bunch of cottage meetings, and we kind of got a feel for what residents wanted. And then there was a survey. I feel like I was vocal about the council, and I feel like they were careful about this also, not taking this as a vote.
Yeah.
It was not an election, it was not a vote, just to get a temperature of the city. But I feel like those results, conversations that I had, and had many, many productive conversations on both sides. And I was really careful about this one because I see both sides of it, and I wanted to honor these people that have lived in the city for so long and that have seen the city change. Change is hard, change is scary,
Right.
and I really wanted to be empathetic about that. But in the end, I feel like the city made the right call, and even opened it up to changing their minds later.
Yeah, gotcha. Say, so sounds good. What's your opinion on high density housing? Should we further that in the city or should we curtail it? What's your thoughts?
We should not further it in the city. I think it's important. I think good city engineering, good city planning dictates you need to have high density in economic and city centers.
Mhm.
And it kind of an indisputed, tenet of city planning.
Yeah.
And we have that now.
Yeah.
We have it where we need it, and we don't need it anywhere else. Um, I will say that, so on the planning commission right now, we are having monthly, sometimes twice a month, work sessions with the city council, planning out the direction and the content of the new general plan. And one of the decisions we are looking at is the character and the nature of the Longhorn Field that's on Timpanogos Highway, because it's
Mm.
going to be developed, and we have an opportunity to make sure that it is developed in a way that's conducive to the character and the nature of Highland. Um, and so we're also balancing that with this state mandate to meet certain criteria regarding affordable housing. Um, and we have an opportunity to address a couple of needs and to appease the state uh, by allowing for a type of high density housing, namely senior housing, 55 or 65 and over housing. If you look at the Coventry the Coventry development neighborhood that's just west of City Hall, um, it has all this amazing green space lawn around it, and then these little units inside.
Yeah.
And every time I tell someone, well, that is technically high density housing, they're a little surprised because it does not feel like crammed in housing, but you have 2, 3, sometimes 4 unit little blocks, and it's high density. And so I think something like that both addresses this mandate from the state, but also this issue of seniors and people that are aging out of their 1 acre lots, their acre and a half lots that want to live within Highland still. We can address that concern by making part of this Longhorn Field
Mhm.
accommodate that type of high density housing.
Interesting. Yeah,
Just,
I have parents in that boat right now. All
Mhm.
right. How do you define the proper role of government for cities? For federal government, it's pretty well defined by the Constitution. They can be involved in this, everything else they're not allowed to touch. You know what I mean? What determines the proper role of government for cities versus state? How does that How do you define that?
Yeah. You know, and besides, you know, kind of the roles that the Utah State Constitution points out, it is a touch and go kind of thing. And it's almost like I don't know, was this the US Supreme Court's definition of pornography? You know it when you see it.
Mhm.
I feel like in city council meetings and on planning commission, when you feel like there's a kind of overreach, you recognize it, and
Mhm.
it kind of rankles a little bit. The most recent example I can think of, I mentioned, was the state's mandate for every city in the state to choose three specific ways to address the affordable income housing issue. They gave a list of 29 things cities can do. They're supposed to choose three of them. They have 5 years to make progress on the three that they choose. Not all cities look the same way and can address that issue the same way. I mean, we can create, let's say Highland created a bunch of high density housing that was supposed to be more affordable. Um, it won't be more affordable. We see it in the new development that's east of City Hall. Um, those units start at 650,000. And so there's no good way to address it in Highland. I would like to, and um, but our way of addressing it is going to look a lot different than most other cities. So that seems like a bit of an overreach. But I
Makes sense.
think anything that just handcuffs the city and keeps them from doing what's best for their residents, because those solutions are going to look pretty unique sometimes.
Mhm. Yep, I like that. Do you feel that the bond fee should continue after the bond ends in 2 years, or should taxes be reduced?
No, taxes should be reduced. That was part of, you know, these bonds were difficult bonds anyway, and the percentage on them was not great.
Mhm.
But I that's just not transparent, good governing to continue that. Um, I'm not against bonds. I think that, you know, I took out a mortgage for my house. I think most people do. Capital projects, getting things done for your residents sometimes require responsible debt. But that's not how you do it. That's not how you fund things. That's how you fund a city, by kind of continuing the fee that's being paid. It needs to sunset, and you got to start over, and you got to listen to the people. You got to put it to a vote sometimes. Like, it's
Mhm.
just the process, and it needs to be followed.
Sounds great. What current day politician do you feel that you relate to most or align politically to most? If you were to choose a current day politician that we might recognize the name of, who do you say, I align with that guy pretty well?
Cool.
Or gal,
One,
or guy or gal, I shouldn't
sure,
say
yeah.
guy,
One thing that drew me to city politics was a lack of partisan thought,
uh-huh.
where political ideology wasn't as important as um, practical city level politics. Um, I find myself disenfranchised from almost every single national and even state politician. And so I've been fortunate to look towards our local representatives. You know, one thing I adore about Mayor Mann is his attention to data
Mhm.
and details and statistics.
Uh-huh.
And it's something that it's a skill that I kind of learned to apply to um, city issues from Mayor Mann. Um, one thing I've learned from Brian Braithwaite is how to be even tempered and not reveal kind of your bias when dealing with certain issues.
Mhm.
I think his kind of stonewall exterior
Yeah.
is a really great way to present yourself as a representative.
Mhm.
Um, and then one thing I love about our current mayor, Mayor Osler, is he is a excellent mediator. You know, because he doesn't have a voting say in
Right.
most, unless it's a tie-breaking vote. And so he's there to kind of mediate the discussion and let it go where it naturally goes, to pull it back when it goes somewhere off the tracks. And
Mhm.
he's really good at that. I think that Brittany Bills will also be extremely excellent at that. So I've been fortunate to have some local uh, elected officials here in Highland that have been pretty outstanding.
Great. Okay, open it up to anyone else that wants to ask any questions. Anyone else want to at this point?
Wes, I'll ask a quick question. Back to the things that you were most interested in being, making sure we've got good sidewalks, that we fill in where we don't have and improve the roadways better. So you've got decent traffic flow, but maybe it's a little bit slower so that it's safer. And then similar to the community center, are those projects that would be important enough for the city to do some bonding to do that? Would that be your view? Or if not, how would they be paid for?
So I think for a community center, a bond is the most obvious direction, but there's other ways to do it. We can borrow from ourselves, the enterprise funds, general fund, and that way we're not paying an interest. Obviously, we need to replenish those funds and work towards doing that right away. And so there would need to be a way to replenish those funds, and inevitably you turn towards a tax or a fee, well, preferably a tax. And that all comes down to what residents want, what residents need. I feel like a community center serves so many residents, so many demographics within the city that it's something worth looking into, even something worth borrowing from ourselves or going into debt for. I don't know. My mind is very, very open on this. I look forward to looking into it more and talking to people that do know more. I know that there are grants available for things like this. And if it's not the right thing to do, as much as I want it, as much as some people do want it, it's not the right thing to do. But I do, yeah, I do. As far as the roads go, there are many, many more bonds or grants available for that. There's the Safe Routes for Kids that is very eager to issue grants for projects like this, especially on the roads that the two elementary schools are on. I'm not as sure about bonding for that. I think that we can take that project a piece at a time, working within our existing budget and address that issue. It might take a little longer, but I think that we can do that on our own through tight budgeting and reallocating funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we're out of time. Do you have any final thoughts you want to offer?
I don't think so. I think, I'm a little maybe on the young side. I guess I feel young. I'm 44. And I am concerned about keeping Highland, right?
Yeah.
I've gotten very much into the history of Highland. I don't know almost anything about my own history, my own ancestors and genealogy. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of adopt Highland as a ancestral identity.
Mhm.
And I'm in love. I'm in love with the city. I'm in love with the homesteading roots. And I'm very concerned, even as a younger fella, with preserving that feel and that character and nature of the city.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate you that you're running. I know it's difficult, and you've been involved in politics for a while, so that's good. And probably makes it a little easier doing this since you've been so involved. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the leap of running for office. So appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for this opportunity. I think it's really great what you're doing.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks a lot. Good to meet you
Thank
today.
you. You
Okay,
too.
Thank
talk
you,
to you
Bye-bye.
Les.
soon. Yeah,
Mhm.
bye. Let's see. Okay, next we are going to welcome, if I can get him in, Ron Campbell. So here we go.
Looks like
Hi,
I'm on.
Ron. Hey, how
Hi
you doing?
there. So I don't see my image, so I don't know if the camera's right.
There's usually a button that you can push
Yeah,
next to the audio, but if it's not showing up, then maybe you don't have something working on your computer. So I can give you a second to let
video.
that go.
Oh,
There
there we
we
go.
go. Okay.
Okay. Let's
I don't know
get
if we've met, Ron. I know I've seen you around. You look very
Yes,
familiar,
I
probably at
don't
the
think we
stores.
have, Rob. I've didn't know much about you, but I've researched you in the last couple of
Oh
days.
no. Oh, that's
So
scary.
yeah, I seriously, I appreciate everything you're doing. You're
Okay.
probably a little more conservative than I am. I've been a
Yeah.
conservative most of my life
Mhm.
until I moved to Utah, and it's a little tough to go along with some of the things that are happening in Utah and
So
state
you're
overreach and
you
some
were
of the
conservative everywhere else besides Utah, right? Because
exactly right. That's exactly right. Um, but
that's interesting. Yeah.
I appreciate what you're doing
Yeah,
and the
likewise. I
time that you're
appreciate that you're
taking.
running. Hmm.
What's that?
Likewise appreciate you taking the leap of running for office. It's scary. I've done it before, and it's not easy. So.
No, and I'm on the council right now. I was appointed by the council when Sarah Peterson
Mhm.
moved. 17 people came forward, and I was fortunate enough to be selected from that group. Three or four dropped out, so
Yeah.
it wasn't that competitive. But
Yep. I know that
I
process. That was my first attempt also, and I didn't win that way. I won through an election in Cedar Hills the next time. So back then the city council chose the replacement. Is that what happened here in Highland? I can't
It's
remember.
exactly right. Yeah,
Yep.
the city council voted me in, but there were only three members of the city council at that point
Hmm.
um, because Tim Ball had moved and had to resign
Yeah.
right at the exact same time when Sarah Peterson's position was open. So,
Gotcha. Mhm. Well, I'll j jump right into the questions. We have about 7 questions we've asked everybody, so
okay.
identical questions. Maybe you could tell me a bit about yourself and what made you want to be on the city council and run again.
Yes. For one, I've enjoyed what I'm doing, and I've seen some needs that are still unmet that I would like to keep working on. But I served 5 years on the Planning Commission and appreciated the role of the City Council. And when Sarah moved, I thought, yeah, that I had ironically just retired the day before I got the announcement that Sarah was moving and this was available. And realized in my career, I've retired 3 times because every time I retire, I go back to work
Hmm.
because I love to get up in the morning and have something important to do. And as long as my wife is working, retiring was not an option for me. So, and she's younger than I am and prefers to work, and I want to work as well. So now I'm working on the city council, and my wife tells me it's my mistress because I spend so much time. I really do. I really love what I'm doing, and I love the council members I'm working with, including Scott, who I'm running with against, if you put it that way. But
Yeah.
I've gained a deep respect for Scott Smith. We don't always see eye to eye, but I like the balance on our current council. So, in my opinion, keeping the council the way it is would be kind of an ideal. That said, both Liz Rice and Wes Warren have spent a lot of time in planning commission meetings and city council meetings, participating, getting involved. So they've dedicated a lot, and I think they deserve a shot on the council. So here I am asking for this, realizing there's some good people. I think how Highland is very fortunate right now to have the caliber of people running that they have. I would like to continue. One of my goals is to provide more transparency. I have a plan for that, but you think, well, you have a plan, let's get started, but it takes a budget and then you have budget priorities. We already have the budget set for fiscal year 25, 26. So it's going to be 26, 27 fiscal year before some of those things come about. Possibility of an app that would communicate more with the residents. I also see a need for the a Chamber of Commerce. We have been a member of the Chamber of Commerce in American Fork,
Yeah.
and that did not prove to be very successful. We were disappointed in that, and This year, we chose not to maintain our membership with American Fork, which leaves us with, well, what do we do now? We need to form one. So my goal, Eagle Mountain set up their own Chamber of Commerce very quickly after they formed. I want to work with them and see what exactly how they did that and do the same thing in Highland.
Sounds good. Wonderful. And let's see, we've got about, we're trying to keep it to about 15 minutes per person. So we've got six more questions and about eight or 9 minutes to answer them. So rapid
Okay.
fire, here we go.
All right.
And you probably already answered this one partially. What issues in Highland are important to you? And you've already kind of thrown that out there. If there's anything you want to
Well,
add.
one that I haven't mentioned is the infrastructure. We've got to maintain our infrastructure. Doug Courtney kind of brought that to us. And when he did, I thought, oh, wow, it's an aging infrastructure and we've got growth. We're almost built out. So the growth doesn't concern me as much as the aging of the infrastructure. So we're engaged in a study right now. When we get that study, the priority of budgeting needs to address our infrastructure and put money where, and we can also look at grants. There's probably some MAG money available, but once we have the study and know where we're at.
What exact part of the infrastructure are you referring to? Is it the water? Is that the most urgent?
The sewer lines in particular, they're very old. The water lines as well. I mean, it's the entire infrastructure that always over time has to be maintained.
Yep. Yep.
And replacing it at some point is mandatory. We're not going to have a choice when it starts getting 50, 60 years old.
Makes sense. Okay. The next one is, what was your stance on the move to legalize alcohol and why?
I voted for that. And the reason was we got a survey back that said 62% of the residents wanted that. And I personally served in Vietnam. I fought for freedom. I like the liberty. I like the choice. I recognize the value of not having alcohol. If I could say no alcohol, I don't drink alcohol. I would prefer others not drink alcohol. I do not want to take that choice away. But I do not want bars. I don't want saloons. I don't want anything beyond a restaurant. When you do the studies, and I looked at the studies, there are very few DUIs coming out of restaurants. They're coming out of their homes in particular, and they're coming out of bars. And I don't believe our restaurants are going to contribute any problem to the DUI problem.
Gotcha. Next one is, how do you define the proper role of government when it comes to cities? You know, the federal government has the 10th Amendment that limits the federal government to what's in the Constitution. Is there any proper role of government that you can define for cities?
Well, absolutely local control as much as possible. We seem to have a legislature, quite honestly, and I'm just going to be very candid. They are very concerned about federal overreach, but they seem to ignore state overreach. And I'm talking about bills that come forward that we have to oppose as cities. And I'm on the Legislative Policy Committee of ULTC, CT, Utah League of Cities and Towns. And we vote against some of these bills saying, no, don't pass that bill that would take our land use authority away, for example. There was a bill that said that we need to have a gravel pit every 50 miles in the state. And the cities no longer can have land use authority over where those gravel pits would be. And we have a gravel pit in Highland right now that's going to end its work. That bill would have kept it alive. And that's state overreach. It's just wrong. The more local control, the better. It's that simple.
Couldn't agree more with that. Okay. The next one is, do you feel that the bond fees should continue after the bond ends in 2 years, or should taxes be reduced at that point?
Well, there's two-edged sword to that. Absolutely. no new bonds. I would not be in favor of any bond. And I know there's a great need and a desire for a community center. But there's other ways we can do that. We can do a business city partnership. We can do a donation where somebody can put their name on it. But to bond for that, I would not be able to support that. But we have fees right now that we charge for public safety, for sewer and different things, and the state, and for road maintenance. The state is looking at eliminating our ability to do that. Just say, no, that's banned. You can't do it. Well, we've got to come up with the money. And maybe some of that bond money would have to go into there. Once those are resolved, that's it. And besides just normal growth of the city, it goes back to a tax savings back to the residents.
Wonderful. And then the last question that I have, what current day politician do you feel that you relate to or align politically the most with?
Well, it's a nonpartisan, and I want to make that clear. This whole thing with the Republican Party endorsing where you have to pay to play, and then you have to pledge to the party. I think of my role on the Legislative Policy Committee in ULCT, and I would then have to vote in favor of things that I would not support. So I think overall, Doug Courtney has proven to really be really sharp. I respect him very deeply. But even with Scott Smith, for example, I don't align with him all the time, but I deeply respect him, deeply. And I want to collaborate and I want to listen. And we come to the better decisions when we have balance. I really believe that. But if there's any single person I align with the most, is probably Kim Rodella.
Okay, great. All right. Kent, do you have any questions for Ron?
Ron, thanks for being on here with us today. Appreciate your candor and your you're very articulate in how you're expressing your views.
Well, thank you.
The only question I would have is, as you mentioned in Highland, the infrastructure in the case of sewers and water, pipes and so forth, they need to be replaced. What I've seen over the years in a variety of places where I've been is that nobody likes to increase taxes because nobody likes to pay taxes. And as a result, a lot of times our infrastructures in whatever city or locale tend to get outdated and we get into crisis situations. So, do you know, does Highland have a surplus sitting there in cash availability? And if so, how much? And if not, should there truly be a reduction in tax, or should that money come in to build a rainy day fund for such kinds of infrastructure replacements in the future?
We absolutely do have a surplus. It is a rainy day fund. It is for emergencies, and it's about 1 year's worth of budget, $7 or $8 million. And we collect interest on that, and most cities have that. The state will only allow us to carry over a certain percentage. But the bottom line is, if there's a balance that has to be maintained, the raising taxes is the option of last resort, but it cannot be eliminated as an option. I wouldn't want to commit to that. I would have to look at everything else. And do we use our rainy day fund? Do we, and if we do, what happens if something else happens? What happens if we have an earthquake? Using it all is unwise. So having that rainy day fund is critically important. I would use it on a short-term solution, but long-term, we've got to look at other funding, and that may and probably would include an increase in tax.
Thank you.
All right, now it's Ron, you get a minute to just to say any last things you want to say before we end the call.
Well, I think if there's anything that I feel like I've done well is to listen to residents. I really care. Um, I've been known to go out to their homes and see what their issues are when they're asking for something, an exception that they need for their particular situation, and I tend to advocate for them. Um, I don't always get what they and I want. In fact, we have a Corey Freeze wanted something and we didn't deliver, but I did. I mean, I fought for him on what he needed. It was a simple deal, but the council wouldn't go along with it. But having said that, I'm a member of the council and we're a team, right? So I have to support what the council did. But me personally, I wish it had been a different outcome.
Makes sense. All right. Well, thank you, Ron, and I appreciate all your service over the years and your continued desire to serve. So appreciate that. And I know it's not easy all the time. So it's good to have people like you that are willing to jump
It's
in.
not. But I
Yeah.
apologize for my dental work that I'm in the middle of. So
I
if my
couldn't
smile
tell.
isn't 100%,
You look great to me, so I couldn't tell.
yeah, it's always
But
an embarrassing time when you got in the middle of dental work. When it's over, it's going to be great. All
yeah, I
right,
didn't
thank
even
you.
notice. But anyway, thanks, Ron, and appreciate everything you do. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye now.
Bye bye. Well, Kent, and I think Owen might still be on. Owen is able to text. He doesn't have the volume, but do you guys have any thoughts or comments regarding what we talked about?
No, I think it was nice to meet those candidates. They're very, they obviously have some passion behind what they're doing,
Hmm.
and and I think that's what you want in a council person is to have somebody that's interested, excited, and has a few things they want to make sure they get accomplished. So I was impressed with all of them. Um, I do, you know, have you had any indication, Rob, on what it's going to take to replace some of that infrastructure dollar wise? Have you heard anything?
No, no, I didn't realize until they started talking about it that we were close to that point here. So
Mm,
that is a good thing to research into for future. Yeah. I didn't even think that there was an issue with that. A lot of Highland has been built out in the last few years. I guess it's been pretty steady probably since about, I'm guessing about 1990, 1985. It's just been steady growth and it's almost all built out now.
mm.
Um, so there's probably areas that are just fine, and then a few areas that are just older and need new pipes or whatnot. But yeah, not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's such a time sometimes, right?
yeah.
I was on a city council in Cedar Hills and that was important to me that we keep our roads up to date because if they deteriorate to a certain point, then you have to dig them out and restart, and that's more expensive than keeping up with the upkeep. So that is important to put the money where it's needed for infrastructure over, I believe over entertainment too. A lot of people stated that entertainment isn't always the right role of government unless everyone in the city, a large majority of the city wants it, I guess. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I would agree. I think the priority, from my personal perspective, would be you want your roads to be safe and travelable. And that's a primary, goal and desire. And a
Hmm.
community center is also a worthy cause, but would fall lower on the
Hmm.
spectrum than that from my view. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Kent. There's a few others that wanted to get interviewed, but they weren't available today, so I may have a follow-up meeting. But thanks for joining us today, and everyone that's watching, thanks for watching, and we'll end it now. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. Take
Yep.
care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.